When I was growing up, I was, I think, too sensitive. I think I was just affected a lot. No concept of religion, for example. We had no concept of caste. We were all sleeping together, eating together, cribbing together. Parents try their best, but they are also parenting the way they were parented, even though they're trying to do better. So there were some aspects of my childhood that perhaps weren't ideal. I spent most of my adult life one form of abusive relationship, and after that I was like shattered completely. I mean, I was a wreck. The only physical abuse that was recognized as abuse. From why is it that I'm always attracting these guys, which are the pattern that I had created was that I was unworthy. And so I always looked for partners that, confirmed that yes, I'm unworthy or I'm old enough to know what I'm saying. Like I said, when we're children, we are exposed to a world that we don't really understand. I was compared to my cousin when I was a kid, and so I felt like I wasn't good enough.
आपके पास टाइम नहीं होता वो करने के लिए.
When you did something as a child, you didn't do it thinking कि आज ना मैं बहुत बुरी चीज करने वाली हूँ. I want to hurt everyone in my family. Is that we should learn how to be compassionate to ourselves.
So we need to actually ensure safety to them instead of looking out for safety for them.
Yeah.
वेलकम बैक टू बिहाइंड द हसल. आज की स्टोरी सिर्फ सक्सेस के बारे में नहीं है, बल्कि उस जर्नी के बारे में है जहां हम खुद को पहचानते हैं. आज हमारे साथ हैं सुबूही सफ़ी, ट्रॉमा एंड रेजिलियंस कोच, mental health educator with over 18 years of experience of helping people break free from emotional baggage. From police department to corporate boardrooms, she's worked across sectors, focusing on stress management, emotional regulation, and deep healing. She's all about nervous system, healing, and she's someone who believes that resilience isn't about avoiding pain, it's about staying grounded through it. आज हम बात करेंगे about her own journey, the hidden side of trauma nobody talks about, and inner child healing that we all secretly need, चाहे हम माने या ना माने. So stay tuned because this episode might just change how you look at your own story. तो फिर आज की बातचीत को स्टार्ट करते हैं बिना किसी फिल्टर के, रॉ, रियल और दिल से.
So Subuhi, growing up, what kind of child were you? Were there signs that you would grow up and become a psychologist and a professional doing healing?
So I'm not a psychologist. I'm a psychiatric social worker, and I've studied a lot of the other healing modalities. When I was growing up, I was, I think, too sensitive. I was really, really quiet, and I think I was just affected a lot. And it was, I was also growing up in a boarding school for 5 years.
Okay.
So yeah, all that I think kind of really made me experience a lot of different elements in life, a lot of different people, and I didn't know it back then. But now that I look back, I think yeah, probably that set the stage for it.
So when was it that you were in the boarding school?
I went to boarding school in class 6 and I left in class after 10th.
After 10th. So kind of the formative years.
Yeah. The main years. Yeah.
So how is it like for being so young and being in the boarding school? How is that feeling altogether?
My dad went to the same school, my uncles went there, my aunt went to the sister school. And so when they started taking girls, it was one of the things that my dad had decided, we're going to send her there. So there was a lot of excitement at home before I went there. And then when I got there, it was suddenly like, okay, I don't know why this is happening to me. It was very scary. Also, I think, as I was bullied a lot. As I said, I was sensitive. And so altogether, not the most pleasant experience for the first year. But gradually after that, it started becoming a lot better. And now I've actually, we just came back from our 25th reunion.
Okay.
After
Nice.
class 12. And these people that I went to school with are extensions of my family. So while the first year was definitely quite bad. The second year onwards, it started getting better and better. But yeah, it was now when I look back on it, I think it was a good experience because it changed the way I look at people and life. you know, when you grow up without like your family, your core family. I mean, we used to see them 4 months in a year. So we grew up, you know, learning from our teachers and learning from our friends and learning from each other. So we actually had no concept of like religion, for example. We had no concept of caste. We were all sleeping together, eating together, cribbing together about going to school and, you know, everything, right? And when you're so young, it is like you, like I said, you form bonds for life. So it was a very interesting upbringing. One I'm very fortunate to have had. I'm very grateful for.
Right. So it's like when I was listening to this, it just reminded me of Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum, Parampara, Papa
Yeah.
Gayate. It was like that. It turned out to be like that. But good that you had a good experience later on. So was there a turning point, maybe a personal experience that pushed you towards becoming a trauma recovery coach?
Yes. So, like I said, I had a few difficult years in my childhood. And also, apart from that, you know, things have, but I will say that all of our parents try their best. Parents try their best, but they are also eventually parenting the way they were parented, even though they're trying to do better. So there were some aspects of my childhood that perhaps weren't ideal. We had, so I mean, when I was growing up, so this is what I didn't realize, and I spent most of my adult life in one form of abusive relationship or the other. The final one that I left in 2014 is when I like walked out, was physically abusive, and after that I was like shattered completely. I mean, I was a wreck. After the That's actually when I realized that there had been abuse, because we never recognized what verbal abuse was, what emotional abuse was, what any of these things was. It was only physical abuse that was recognized as abuse, right? So once that happened, and I realized that, okay, you know what, this is serious. I changed my question from why is it that I'm always attracting these guys to, like, you know, what can I do different? Because I had to take responsibility for it. And so then that healing process started from there. I guess the healing process started, like, you know, forever, but the real responsibility and intentional practice started from there. And as I moved from where I was to, like, you know, just continuing on that journey, I realized that this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to guide other people or support other people to move from this place of, you know, feeling desperate and feeling terrified and just being stuck in the patterns that are unhelpful and unhealthy and, you know, actually dangerous sometimes, to a place where you can be yourself safely. So that was the big turning point.
राइट सो एक जनरल परसेप्शन है कि अच्छा ये तो साइकेट्रिस्ट हैं, ये साइकोलॉजिस्ट हैं, प्रोफेशनल्स हैं, इनकी लाइफ सॉर्टेड होगी क्योंकि इन्हें पता है कहाँ स्टॉप करना है, कहाँ बाउंड्रीज क्रिएट करना है. बट व्हेन आई एम लिसनिंग टू यू आई रियलाइज दैट दैट्स नॉट हाउ इट वर्क्स, राइट?
No.
So have there been any moment where you felt completely lost? I mean, you've mentioned that there was a loop that was created, and you had this question that why me, right? So other than this, was there any time that you felt that what is happening with me?
Yeah, because the patterns that we create, which are the pattern that I had created, was that I was unworthy, and so I always looked for partners that confirmed that yes, I'm unworthy of being loved. But that unworthiness was not just a pattern in romantic relationships. It was also a pattern that I had in my professional life. So I always, I just was never appreciated in a way in my jobs. I was, I had some of like really weird bosses, you know, the ones who do that personal attack, and ended up like I always ended just feeling completely drained, you know. And the other thing is that things always started well. this is how it is with all relationships as well. Like things start well, and then you think, okay, this is good, I can do this. And then it very quickly goes down. So that's the pattern that I had, not only in my romantic relationships, also in my professional life. And I wouldn't say this is what I had in my friendships, but there was a pattern where I always looked for people to protect me because I didn't feel like I could protect myself. And so as I continued on this journey, things like started to change. So realizing your self-worth, actually it's a very big thing, and it helps you to set boundaries slowly. But there are still times, even like now, when like for example, coming to a place, punctuality was something that was very important when I was growing up, and it still is in my parents' house right now also. But so I used to get very uncomfortable, and I mean physically uncomfortable if I was late for something. And that's like a response to trauma response in a sense. But now I'm like, it's okay, I still get like a little bit of discomfort in my stomach when I'm running late, but it's okay. Like, I learn to breathe through it. So it's not that the discomfort doesn't happen, it's just that it's easier to work through it now.
So, like you mentioned that you realized that this pattern was not just in your romantic relationship. It was with friends, it was with bosses, it was with colleagues. So, when did you realize that, or was there any particular point when you realized कि ये सिर्फ अभी का नहीं है, it is my childhood that needs healing?
Everything goes back to the formative years, and unraveling it goes back to your childhood. I mean, it's just something that happens. Um, this is like a joke where the psychologist will say, this is, even a friend of mine was saying that the idea that people have when they go to a psychologist is that they'll say, tell me about your childhood. And it's because it's true. A lot of our formative years hold the key to our behaviors and patterns, belief systems as we age. Because when we're children, we're not really able to comprehend the world, and we are born into a set of rules and customs that we don't understand. Because it's not always natural, right, to go to school. I mean, to not say what you want to say, but respect somebody else's thought. So everything goes back to your childhood.
So, I mean, I understand that it all goes back to the childhood, but did you had a point where you decided that, okay, this is where I think I need to look back, or is what you were, because this is what you had studied, and like you said, that the first thing that a psychologist would or a psychiatrist would say is, tell me about your childhood. So, any point that you thought that, okay, let me go back to my childhood and see what went wrong?
I wouldn't say there was a specific point exactly, but because a lot of the beliefs that I've got, I know that they are from my childhood, but when they were created is not something that I'm like, that I know. Also because our memories are, they're not like real memories. Your memory of something will be very different from my memory of exactly the same thing. So it's not like the most reliable source of information. But what I do know is that a lot of beliefs, for example, beliefs around money, one of the things that I remember my dad saying when I was very young, and he says it, I mean, he doesn't say it anymore, but he used to say it for a very long time, was that money is not important. Because for him, passion was more important.
Yeah.
But I grew up thinking, okay, money is not important. And then there's one thing that my mom used to always say, which is like, you have to be very like respectful of everybody. Or she has this thing of, she doesn't rest even now. And she herself is like, very active all the time, and she rests when she falls sick. Now she's learning how to rest. And it's the same pattern that I've seen in a lot of people, and especially a lot of women.
Yes.
So the thing is, experience is not the only thing that shapes your childhood or your belief systems. It's also what you see others doing.
So, who's been your biggest supporter or mentor on this journey?
I think I've had many supporters and mentors come along throughout my life, but in the last like 8 years, um, I've been with this amazing partner, and he's been really key he's been really important in changing a lot in the way I saw myself and the way I saw relationships, because he was the safe space that allowed me to be vulnerable. So when I was ready to start dating again, I knew I wanted to do it because I wanted to change my relationship with love. Because love before that had always been something that brought pain of some kind or the other. And so that has been very instrumental because, that relationship, of course, has been very instrumental, but it's also changed so many things. And his, presence is it's like this constant support, which is a very beautiful thing. And I know that I've got this in my parents as well, but you always kind of, say, okay, it's my parents. But he's someone who saw me as an adult. And I've changed a lot in the time that we've been together, even though it's not been that long. It's been like 8 years, but I've changed a lot in the time we've been together. So that's also like a big thing.
In this era where people are actually, especially I hear the new generation, they actually run away from relationship. They are so scared about commitment, and when you talk about this, it actually instills the belief on relationships, that how one can stand by each other and then uplift together.
Yeah, it's important to choose the person, the right person.
Absolutely.
Not that I'm saying that it's a soulmate situation or like the one or anything. I'm sure there might be many other people, but the thing is that the person who makes who stands with you as change happens and as horrible things happen and also as wonderful things happen. So that's important.
Right. So, healer, coach, there is a human behind you as well. So, what's that one thing that people might just not know about you?
I'm a dog mom, although I think everybody must know that about me. And I'm 42 years old. I don't know if a lot of people think I look very young. Not trying to be.
Oh, you do.
Yeah. So a lot of times people kind of get put off because they think I might be too young. So this is just it's a little bit of my marketing here. Yeah, I'm old enough to know what I'm saying. And I love strength training.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm vegan.
Right. So, matlab, I to get scared of listening to strength training only in this age. I feel like, अच्छा ये हम कर सकते हैं क्या? But it's good, like interesting. So, inner child healing, it's a buzzword right now. So, somebody who's never heard of, or who's heard of the word, but they may just superficially know about it. So, what is it that they need to know? How would you explain it in detail or in more simplifying way? That what is inner child healing?
So, a very simple way to say it would be the child within us. And a little more complicated would be as we are growing up. Like I said, when we're children, we are exposed to a world that we don't really understand because it might go against our natural selves. And we are expected to follow some rules and customs and things like that we don't know why we are being made to follow them. And also then we get punished for not following them, or lots of things happen when we're children, right? We get compared to other people, other kids might bully us, we might not get that phone, or I mean I'm assuming that kids now want phones, or that toy, or go on that vacation, or whatever it is, something simple, or something big. But the thing is that anything that overwhelms your system as a, whether you're a child or an adult, is something that that can cause a wound. So inner child healing is what is the word that we can use to say, to address that wound. That wound can be very simple, like you know um, I was compared to my cousin when I was a kid, and so I felt like I wasn't good enough. That wound can be, I saw my parents didn't have a very good relationship with each other. They were good, they were married, they were, whatever. But I felt like because that relationship wasn't good, maybe I don't want to be in a relationship, or I feel like I shouldn't be open in a relationship or vulnerable. It can be that my classmates made fun of me for whatever reason, or that I didn't have something that others had. It could be anything, and these are the smaller things. And then of course it can be even bigger things like physical abuse, or verbal abuse, or financial distress, poverty, and then so many other things. So those are the things that create issues when you're a child, and working through those issues, because even when you're a child, so you form your patterns, or you form your belief systems, and all of these things get stored in your subconscious mind and in your body. And as you age, you are basic, so it could almost be like this is your code, and as you age, you're operating from that code that has been written. Or like, let's say it's kind of like your blueprint now, so you will be operating from that blueprint or that code. So your responses, your behaviors, everything is going to be based on that. So that's like kind of what we might call your inner child.
Right.
So we need to give that inner, and of course it's not true that all people have a wounded inner child. Some people don't. And there are many, 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 many things that we can, that I can bring into this explanation. Like there's this thing called attachment theory, where you feel safe as a child, that the world is safe because you have an adult who, whether it's a primary caregiver, like ideally your parents, who kind of nurture you. But then there are some people who don't have a secure attachment. And so for them, life is more difficult. And then there are also other explanations, like there are many different parts within us. So this is one of those parts within us. So there are many explanations, but essentially inner child would be the part within you that feels joy, comfort, that feels joy, that is creative, that is, that holds awe and wonder for the world, that wants to do things that are fun, that can love without abandon, maybe love with abandon, like just be free and herself, I would say, for me. But a lot of us, we lose that part as we're growing up because we're not encouraged to be ourselves.
There's so much of pressure, academic pressure, this pressure, social pressure, that
Yes.
children tend to mature faster.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I think a lot of us lose out on our hobbies when we are growing up, because आपके पास टाइम नहीं होता वो करने के लिए, तो आपने वो छोड़कर, क्योंकि पढ़ाई करनी है, आपने अच्छे नंबर्स लाने, अच्छे ग्रेड्स लाने, अच्छे कॉलेजेस में पढ़ना है, and then it becomes a loop. So yeah.
Also, the thing is, we always think if you're doing something, you have to only do it well. Otherwise, there's no point in doing it.
Right.
No, but that loses. Like, when was the last time any of us went out and now it's raining right now. Right now, the season is of rains. When was the last time we went and jumped in a puddle or like just played in the rain? It's been a while. As soon as it rains, everyone runs inside.
I somehow I have had a very bad rain experience.
Yes.
So since not consciously, after speaking to you, I've realized that unconsciously, I tend to avoid rain
Yeah.
because there's some, of course, that impression is there in my head.
Yeah.
So yeah. So how then? These are adulthood memories that I have, but how does a childhood trauma shapes up the adulthood? Like when we are talking about the big things, big events that happen, किसी के साथ कुछ एक्सीडेंट हो गया या और जिसको हम एक्चुअली ट्रॉमा समझते हैं, सिर्फ हमारी कॉन्सेप्ट में ट्रॉमा का मतलब है कि भाई कुछ बड़ा इवेंट हो गया, right? But how, so what exactly trauma can be termed as, if I have picked up right from you? It can be small events कि भाई सारा टाइम फोन पे क्यों लगे हो, and it can be big events as well. Then how does it all shapes to our adulthood, our professional life, our relationship, everything gets shaped as per this? क्योंकि वो तो बड़ा टाइम स्पैन चला जाता है ना फिर उसमें तो.
Exactly. The thing is that there are a few differences. So anything that overwhelms your system will can become a traumatic event depending on how you are able to work through it. So if you've ever seen, I don't know, like, I mean, a lot of us have access to dogs now in our, whether it's in our life as living with us or around. But anytime, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but anytime your dog has a stressful experience, like maybe you take the dog to the vet, or maybe, you shout at the dog for doing something wrong, the dog will usually have a big yawn or, do a big shake. So that's physically actually dispelling that stress.
Right.
And it's something very simple that all of us should be able to do. Very simply, just feel like right now, are you feeling that you're talking about something and your shoulders are going up because you're stressed, or what's happening in your body,
Actually.
right? So because that's what happens. So just learning to release that pressure slowly, doing a few things that you can use to regulate your body, whether it's like doing like something with your breath, or gently moving a little bit, just putting your hand on your heart and just saying, hey, I'm okay, I'm fine now. Or being able to call somebody or be with somebody and talk through it. So these things actually help us work through that trauma a little easier. But we don't usually have access to that, because as soon as something bad happens, now we have learned that theek hai, kuch nahi hua, chhod do, just go on with your life, so we don't process anything anymore. And also, as we're children, if somebody is shouting at us and that person is shouting at us for something that if I'm doing something that I feel is like right, and I think most people will remember this. If you think about it and you try and remember it, you'll remember it. When you did something as a child, you didn't do it thinking कि आज ना मैं बहुत बुरी चीज करने वाली हूँ, I want to hurt everyone in my family. No, right? You're just saying, I want to do something because I think I want to do this. Like maybe I want to try doing this, maybe this seems like fun, maybe this, childhood motivations are small. It's not like I want to, murder my family, or it's not like I want to hurt anyone. None of that happens, right? But then when you get shouted at that, it's like you're basically being shouted at for making a bad decision.
Right.
Which adults do all the time, right? So the people that are actually causing the problem, or rather the people that are actually causing the distress, are the people that should ideally be helping you through the distress. So then you don't know where to go with it, because if I'm being shouted at by my mom or my dad for doing something that I thought was right, I'm not going to go and tell them that, I want to talk about how I'm feeling. Although ideally that should be the case, but that's not what usually happens.
So then what happens is we understand that this is what is the pattern, and we continue with this pattern in our adulthood as well.
Yeah.
Without knowing that, okay, how I have to shut it down, how I have to heal it, how I
Yeah.
have to process it, and then move ahead. So that pattern stays in the adulthood as well.
So many times if you think about it, like if you had a bad experience with public speaking, like you were asked to speak in front of class, or teacher asked you something and you gave the wrong answer. So either your teacher yelled at you, or the students made fun of you, or something, and suddenly you find that you're not able to speak up in your meetings. Or, for example, and that's such a small example, but everything that, like, So, or otherwise you feel that I don't care about anybody else, I will speak even if I'm not making sense. It doesn't matter, I just have to speak.
Correct.
So, any of those things can happen.
So, everybody doesn't have enough resources. Like, अगर हम बात करें, बहुत तरह की चीज़ें हो सकती है. Financially, they cannot. But listening to you, I understand that healing your inner child is so important. Of course, everybody doesn't have a wounded inner child, but knowing and healing is a process. So, people who do not have enough resources, what are few things that they should do to cope up with the situation?
The very first thing that we should all as a practice start doing, as a practice, like we should teach our kids this, this should be part of the curriculum, is what I really believe, is that we should learn how to be compassionate to ourselves. So, and curious. Instead of what's wrong with me, why did I do this? I wonder what happened, why did I do this? It's just the changing of the question. Or also, you know, something, maybe I was hurt or maybe I was scared. So you're curious, but it's okay. I'm fine. I'm still good. Because a lot of times what happens is that shame kind of takes over, like inner critic, which is always telling us how bad we are. So that is also basically a part of your, like, kind of part of your inner child. And what we want to do is, instead of listening to the criticism, replace it with compassion. That, and also very importantly, have some kind of multiple, like, or at least one or many practices that you can do multiple times in a day that bring your body into a balanced state. So that can be breathing, breath work. Breath work, matlab, you know, specific types of breath work. There's box breathing, which I really love. There are also other gentle movements. You know, there's one very simple thing, which is where you just look up and, you know, you put your hands up. The thing is, we call it like a star, like cat collecting stars. So you just look up and you just move your hand and you're trying to pick stars like that from the ceiling, you know, from the sky. So what this does is it actually bilaterally stimulates you. So that's good. Then you can sing, you know, all of those things. And also it's very important to have a community. At least one person or some people who are safe, so that you can be yourself, that you can show up with your vulnerabilities. That's important.
Right. But ऐसा नहीं हो गया आजकल people are so conscious about being judged and they guard themselves. मुझे लगता है कि आज के टाइम पे hardly anybody would have that one person जिनके पास वो vulnerable हो सकते हैं.
And this is the reason why we have people in my profession, healers and coaches and, you know, psychologists, psychiatrists. The reason is because as a society we've become so judgmental. We've always been, I guess. It's part of the way we progress, you know. So we've become so judgmental because we've, like I said, created this system of rules and, you know, things. So it is difficult, but it's not impossible. And all I will say is that if you're looking for it, then it will come to you. But be clear on what you're looking for. And if you do some online searches also, there are like small support groups and communities where you can show up authentically.
Okay.
But even to show up authentically, it's going to take a little time. Because if you've never been safe to be yourself, even if you're surrounded by people that will welcome your authenticity, you will not be able to do it. So that's where the regulation practice is very important.
So I have read this statement that says your healing starts first from you. So first that actualization, that self-realization is important.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the reasons why I said that community or one safe person is important is because our nervous system, it reacts to, like my nervous system will react to your nervous system as we're sitting right now in my in a room. If I'm to suddenly get up and start pacing in an anxious way, or if I'm to suddenly get up and start shouting, you know, you'll have a reaction to it.
Correct.
right? Because we are co-regulating in that way. So, but if I'm sitting here calmly, you will also feel a sense of calm.
Correct.
So that's like a safe person. So that safe person is someone who you can also start by doing that for yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
I also have one more question for you, which we see in the society happening. So that generational thing, जिसको tech, मतलब social media में nepotism कहते हैं, but there is just a generational thing. People believe कि मैं अगर doctor हूँ, I have become successful, or I am an engineer. This is the path my parents decided this for me. So my children also should follow a path that I decide for them. How is, of course, a lot of us are changing this, we are allowing, but this still stays. I would want to hear from you when we are talking about childhood trauma and inner child healing. What is it that parents like us need to change within themselves to stop this cycle, to stop this loop? It's a pattern.
It is a pattern, and it's a pattern that's based in safety. So because success is seen as safety now, if you're successful, then your life is fine. Like, you'll make your money, you won't have problems financially, you'll have status in society, things like that. So that's safety, right? Essentially. So it's all rooted in safety. Because I have become a doctor, my parents told me to become a doctor, so I became a doctor. And so as I'm a doctor and I have status in society, I'm making money, I'm doing well. So if my child becomes a doctor, even my child will have the same things.
Right.
So it's basically like all of the things that we do, they're all rooted in safety in some way or the other. Our nervous system and our behaviors, they're all working for us. It's just that sometimes they get taken into behaviors that might not be best. So it's important to recognize that just because something worked for you doesn't mean it's also going to work for your child.
Right.
Because there's so many factors, like the world is changing, like there are so many things that are different from when we were growing up. I
Correct.
grew up without a phone,
Absolutely, yeah.
I grew up, like when I was growing up, we had only Doordarshan. We used to go out and play a lot. I grew up at a time when the pollution problem wasn't so big.
Right.
There were so many different things. And kids now have a very different life. So, and they're also exposed to a lot more.
Correct.
I think at a certain point, it's also going to end up being that you will have to learn to have some faith and trust, whether it's in a higher power or your skills as a parent, and also faith in your child's capability to make a choice for their life.
Right.
And no matter what the choice is, you'll probably have to support them. Whether it's something that you're happy with or whether it's something that you're concerned about,
So we need to actually ensure safety to them instead of looking out for safety for them.
Yeah. Well put.
So when it comes to trauma healing, what is it that you think people have misunderstood about all this concept?
I think people think that healing is almost, healing is like an exam, that you finish the exam and you're healed. That's not true at all. Healing is like, it's basically life. It goes with you till the end of your life. Something new will always come up, some new occurrence, some new revelation. Oh, okay, even that hurt me. Why did that hurt me? Like, so things will keep coming up. So it's not one destination. It's
Right.
lifelong. That's one really big misconception people have. And the second thing I would say, like, that's one really big thing. And if I had to add another, it would be that it's that someone else can do it for you. It's really important to know that healing is your responsibility. Because no matter what happened to you could have been anybody else's fault.
Right. So, like you said, that people think that it's just one step and it's done. So there's a lot of code that happens, that the chaos before the calm, and we see all these things on social media. They say that before you're healed, there's a worse. But is there? There will be worst before you heal. But is there an end to this journey? Is there like somebody completely healed? How does it work? I mean, is there a lot of emotional turmoil that happens before somebody is healed?
So there are various types of practices that we have in the healing profession, and some of them do tend to kind of take you back into the events. And if you do that in a person whose body is not feeling safe, that can actually feel really bad. It can bring up a lot of memories. It can, it basically, it's like a massive flashback. And it can be re-traumatizing. So when something like that happens, you will feel horrible.
Right.
But I don't think that's necessary.
Okay.
So when I work with clients, for example, they're open to share whatever they want to share, but the practice is more into regulating the body, into working, into focusing on strengths, and connections, so that it doesn't feel horrible, essentially.
Right.
And I don't think that I don't know anybody who I would probably say is completely healed. I will say that things don't hurt like they used to. But I haven't met a lot of, like maybe like a Buddhist monk or something, and I would think of that person like, someone enlightened. Maybe a sadhu sitting, in the Himalayas.
Right.
Or maybe a sadhu sitting in, Benares somewhere. I would not say otherwise that anybody is completely healed, because, like I said, it's lifelong. Something or the
process.
other is always there. What you choose to do with it is
Right.
your choice.
So we see the new generation, what we call the Gen Z, we see them being very vocal about mental health. If I talk about 20 years back, people would hardly discuss mental wellness. People are now opening up that I used to have that kind of a problem. But millennials like us are still talking about it. They are still open. And there's a lot of content that is there around where people are talking about it. So do you think talking about it, looking at these content, people are discussing it, is it helping or is it hurting?
There is now so much content around mental health. And I mean, I think it's great that we are finally having conversations. But I think that also sometimes it can get diluted because everything is not a trauma, you know? Like, I mean, I think I don't know where I was, somewhere where I saw someone say that you're traumatizing me because you're not giving me the coffee I want. So, something like they were saying that to their parent. And no, I don't know if that's trauma really. I wouldn't categorize it as such myself. So I think that sometimes it gets diluted. But I am really happy to see that as we talk about it more and more and more, the stigma kind of is going away. And that's so important, because still, there are so many people who feel that I don't, like, it's a weakness. They think of it as a weakness if you seek support for your mental health.
Of course, that's a perception.
Yeah. And it's very sad.
So we also see that there are people who, especially the young people, I hear it from them that I've achieved so much. but I think it's not enough. I'm not enough. Where does that come from?
Well, this would be a very classic inner child wound, I guess. Um, as we were growing up, like there were some examples that I gave of being compared to another child, for example, or being. There's also this idea that if I'm really good, if I achieve a lot, then I'll get the attention that I want, then I'll get the love that I want. A lot of times, especially if you're growing up in a family which has a lot of kids, cousins, whatever, the ones that get attention are the ones that perform really well, or the ones that are really bad. You know, so both of those things are essentially you're conditioning the kids to either perform really well or to just behave badly, because that's what's giving you attention.
Correct.
So as you start sensing as you're growing up, then this belief becomes that the only time that I am worthy of attention or love is when I'm performing well.
Correct.
And so that, like, the thing is that when we're children, we have these interactions with adults and each other and the world around us, and we see interactions between adults, and that shapes how that shapes our personalities, it shapes our beliefs and our perceptions about ourselves, about the world around us, about how we behave, about how about our relationships that we have, whether it's with people or whether it's with life in general, like professionally or whatever. And so this is how we start believing things about the future or like our life. So if, for example, this happened where I was only given attention if I was doing really well in studies, then I might start thinking that the only way I'm worthy of attention or love is good performance. And even when you get it, because you're so focused on the accomplishment, it's never going to be enough, because there's always something better.
Right. So, do you think it is normal to outgrow friendships or relationships when you start healing or when you're in the process of healing?
Absolutely. And it happens to, I mean, it's a very normal thing also to outgrow friendships and relationships even as you age, right? Because priorities change, and just life becomes different. You don't always have the time or the space as you did when you were younger. And so that's just like normal aging. And then as you start healing, sometimes you hold people to a different standard, because it's not okay for someone to say something to you anymore. It might have been okay for them to, for example, be mean to you when you were not in a good place. But you just took it as everybody's mean to me anyway. But as you start healing, you realize that, I don't like this and I don't accept it.
You start creating boundaries.
Yeah. So it is normal. A lot of times, if your friendship or your relationship with the other person is, I guess, good or grown up enough, you might be able to approach them and say that I don't like this. And then you grow with your relationship. You both grow together, or you all grow together. And sometimes that doesn't happen. And that's okay too. Like, there will always be more people.
Yeah. So, one advice you would give to somebody who's realized that there is a childhood trauma and that needs healing?
Compassion, curiosity, and kindness.
Okay.
To yourself. Community, if you can find it. And learn to regulate. Learn to regulate your body. That's really important. And find what works for you. Many things work for different people,
There's, like we discussed, that there's so much there on social media, and how do we filter that this is the content or this is the person I should be actually listening to, and where should one create boundaries? Because I see that our young generation is like all the time on social media consuming all these content, creating perceptions about different technical terms like trauma, like narcissism, and many other things. So where do they create the boundary, and how do they figure it out that, okay, this is what I need to trust, this is not something I should be trusting?
I think as a rule of thumb, it's important to gauge who's saying what. So if people are only focused on what happened to you, then you're kind of stuck in just a space of validation, which is important, but it's not where the healing is going to happen. Healing is also going to happen, or rather, it's really important to also know what you are going to do about it next. Whether that means setting a boundary, whether that means taking care of yourself more, and by that I mean regulating your body, or putting self-care at the forefront. All of that is more important than blaming someone who did something.
So it's time for the rapid fire. और हर famous rapid fire की तरह, this one also has a hamper. The Hustle Bustle Hamper, which is sponsored by INSEA, your ultimate destination for fashion accessories. Vedas Touch Unisex Salon, premium choice for your hair and beauty in Gurgaon. We evolve ancient healing, modern living, rooted in nature. 7 Spoons, home cooked delicacies with a healthy twist. Craft or gift, handmade, sweet gifting options. Nefertum, the god of perfume. And a loft event, crafting memories with every event. So let's head to the rapid fire.
So inner child in one word.
Joy.
If you weren't doing this work, what do you think you would be doing today?
Anything related to dogs.
Okay.
Or
A movie
animals.
that beautifully captures healing.
2 movies, Inside Out
Hmm.
and Encanto.
Oh, I love Inside Out. Your personal guilty pleasure.
I've recently started watching Bridgerton.
I'm yet to start. So journaling or meditation?
I love meditation.
Okay. One myth about trauma you'd love to burst forever.
It's not one big thing, it's many things also.
Okay. Tough love or gentle support?
Gentle support, always.
One piece of advice for your 18-year-old self.
Hang on.
Okay. If trauma were a color, it would be
Red, maybe?
red. Okay. One song that feels like healing for you.
There's this song called Dancing is Healing, which I really love because what I usually do is I play it loudly and I just jump around, and it's like a high energy kind of electronic song. And sometimes I cry, sometimes I laugh, whatever my body is feeling, I just like take it out with that song. That's for me.
Right. Social media for healing, magic wand or drama?
I think both, a bit of both.
A bit of both. I'm breaking it the rapid fire. So why both?
Because there are people who offer genuinely good advice, and there are also people who don't.
Right.
So I would have to say that you have to be a little discerning and see what is working for you.
Right. Post-healing relationship, squad goals or solo vibes?
I say squad goals because community is really important. But also it's important to understand that if you are not able to be alone, then solo vibes.
Right.
So it'll depend on where you are.
Situation to situation. Okay. So that was actually rapid.
Yeah.
And thank you so much. So that was really quick. And here is the hamper. So
Thank you.
thank you to all our
Oh,
sponsors.
this is really lovely. I love it. I'm very excited to dig into it.
So before we go, I would like to have a few parting words from you.
Sure. Well, healing is about showing up for yourself. It's about taking care of yourself. It's about resting. It's about spending time with yourself, about learning who you actually are, your strengths, and focusing on that. So, curiosity, compassion, and love for
Right.
yourself and for others.
So thank you so much for being here on Behind the Hustle, Subuhi. I'm looking forward to have some more conversation with you in future.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for this wonderful gift box. I look forward to watching the episode, and also I'm really looking forward to the subsequent series.
Sure.
Thank you so
Sure.
much.
All right.